Good morning, traders. It's Tuesday, May 29th. Taking a look at the charts today, we've got some pretty big price action going on. The equities markets were up fairly sharp last night. Let me just move to the SP 500. They're up nicely from the close on the previous session, and then today, this morning, we've seen a big drop with some heavy volume in the equities market. SP 500 down 0.7%, Nasdaq down just over 0.5%. And money is very fearful today. Money is piling into bonds. The VIX is up, was up almost 20% not too long ago. So we're getting a big washout potential low here today. What we're getting today could be very much so like one of these type of days where the market ends up being down huge and ends up recovering, really cleansing the market. You get this kind of three-wave correction, and it's breaking a previous low that really cleanses the market. And we've had the market kind of channeling here. We've had this low. We've had this low tested a couple times, and today we've actually flushed these lows here, broken below it. The VIX is spiking. We're going to see major panic selling probably on the NYSE when the market's open. And the fact that everybody's piling into utilities, bonds, um, and the VIX is spiking up as big as it is, this could very much be a very significant washout low today. We may see more selling early in the morning. We'll see how the day closes, if it recovers. But we are looking at, again, one of these type of days where you have this big flush out in the market. You can see another day back here, it flushed all the way down to these lows and then ended up having a massive rally back. So these are the type of days that we're kind of looking for. And if we look at the short-term chart here, this is the trend analysis. The green shaded area is when the equities market dips into short-term intraday oversold levels. And the market is set to be down here at 2,700. Let's just move that over. So it's right down this whole number, 2,700. If we actually move over a little bit more, let's take a look right at this whole area. 2,700, very critical line in the sand. We've got this gap window where the market makers, if they're under resistance, they like to gap prices, get through resistance when there's no volume, so they can gap it in overnight trading and let the market take off versus trying to get the market through a resistance area during regular trading hours. Gaps tend to get filled, which it did come down and get filled, indicating this is a critical line in the sand. And then the market today is trading right back down at 2,700, a whole number. Whole numbers act as support when you're above them, resistance when you're below them. It's when traders say, if the price gets to 2,700, I will buy at that nice round even number. If you're underneath it, people will say, if it gets all the way up to 2,700, I am going to sell and lock in some profits. So the market has dropped significantly. We are trading right at this area today, flirting around this 2,700 area, give or take a few points on each side. We've got panic selling in the market. We're likely going to see green shaded bars here in the market being oversold, and we could see potentially a very strong recovery over the next day or three potentially if things wash out like I think they could here. So that's where we are in the grand scheme of things. Taking a look over at just the short-term cycle here for the SP 500, it shows technically today we should see the market be moving down. This is a 30-minute bar, so more or less most of today it is showing downward pressure, and then we've got the following session more or less the market moving higher. So um, washout low seems to make sense. We do have the 20-day moving average, which will probably step up again today right to this 2,700. 20-day moving average usually acts as support as well. So a lot of things kind of coming together at this panic washout low. A lot of people are going to be afraid today, nervous in the market, dumping their shares in panic. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look at the SP 500 here on the daily chart, we're just in a consolidation mode. We're still holding up above this major support area that we've had down here, and it's just cleansing itself out down to this 20-day moving average. It's nothing too significant, but we are seeing the VIX spike up. Here's the VIX. Obviously, it's dwarfed with the February's crash, but if we look at the recent price action, it's a pretty big pop, 20% in the VIX. Whenever we have a pop about 20%, we see the market fade back down. So that's where we are in the grand scheme of things. Now, taking a look over at, let's take a look at the US dollar. You know what, I'll pull over this chart here. Here is the US dollar. Index, very strong day in the market for the dollar. It kind of been doing this running consolidation, getting overbought, getting into resistance. Today, it's expanded to the upside, huge pop, up 0.75% today, which surprisingly hasn't sent precious metals crashing. Gold's only down 0.15%, silver's down 0.7%. Nothing significant considering this giant move. And I think money is piling into precious metals as a safe haven. So it's really helping hold them afloat. There's a lot of fearful money in the market today, and the dollar and gold are continuing to actually trade fairly well together considering the dollar is rising. Metals continue to trade sideways in the grand scheme of things. So that's kind of what we're looking at today for precious metals. Here is the chart of gold. You can see it had a nice pop last week. It's been consolidating, stuck under the 20-day moving average, above this 5-day moving average. We could see another leg down if the dollar really expands and takes off. We could see gold continue to move down, very similar to this scenario here. Gets pinched. It is in the short-term downtrend. Could very easily break down to another low down to this 1270, 1275 area and kind of cleanse the market. If we look down at this area through this consolidation, it would make sense that it dips down and flushes here. But considering the move down in gold, we haven't seen miners really crash. They are trading lower today, but I mean, miners in general have been sloping up and moving higher, building a base. Same with silver. Silver miners continue to slope up. Hopefully they can hold this base and eventually break out when precious metals really pop and start to move higher. If we do take a look at silver futures, they are trading down. It had a nice pop there yesterday. They were up trading nicely, reversed back down as they got into the upper kind of resistance area. So it's just sold back down. It's in the mid range of where the price action is. Obviously, the lower range is down here around 16.15, 16.25 area. Now looking over at natural gas, relatively flat. It's kind of dwarfed this big spike, but there's pretty good price action in overnight trading. We were up about 0.7%, down about 0.7%, and now we're back to pretty much flat. So it is trying to move higher, but it's all over the place this morning. Crude oil continues to crash. Huge down day the last session there, and today we actually saw crude oil down quite a bit. And we were talking about this last week in our video that this was a critical line in the sand, these pivot lows right around here in the market, and you can't see it, but the candle comes all the way down to about here this morning. So the crude oil has flushed down below this critical level, cleansing, hitting triggers, stops, flushing the market. It is starting to recover. This could end up being a pretty significant reversal day for crude oil as it flushes down, panic selling, breaks this pivot low over here, running the stops, and it could end up being green and have a strong close. And it could actually be one of those big reversals where it just starts to take off again once now that it's kind of cleansed everyone who's been piling in during this kind of run up. It's kind of flushed itself out. So interesting turning point potentially in crude oil as well. Last but not least, take a quick look at the financials. Obviously, we're positioned for a move higher in equities in general, along the transports, along the financials. The XLF here is looking like it may have one of those washout lows today as well, where the market flushes down, very similar to a day like this here, with a big washout low. A day like this over here, where you get a big gap down, a flush down in the morning, and then it has a strong recovery, and then you see it muscle back up. So we are looking at these type of big gap downs and sell-off type of flush. The market here is 27.40, so we were looking at more or less the price of XLF is trading somewhere right around here right now. So it's going to have this nice kind of three-wave kind of flush and correction. We'll see if it can, if this is more or less a sharp bull flag that cleanses itself, and then we start to see that big run back up to these recent highs over here going forward. So that's what we're looking for today. Major potential pivot day in the market, or it could be the start of a big sell-off. We never know until it happens, but all the signs are there that this looks more like a washout low. There's a lot of fear in the market. Everything's coming down to critical support zones. Usually you get a bounce at least for the first day and tag of these extreme levels. Because that's it for now. Talk to you in a bit. Bye bye.